In the spring of 2018, a 61-year-old teacher named Margaret stood in front of her classroom. She reached for a word. It wasn't there. She laughed it off. Her students laughed with her. But it kept happening. At dinner, during phone calls, in the middle of her own sentences. By the end of that year, her neurologist sat across from her with a manila folder and a very quiet voice. He told her she had early-stage cognitive decline. Not Alzheimer's, not yet. But the slope was there, and it was trending down. Margaret asked him what she could do. He paused. Then he asked her one question. "What did you eat this week?" She listed cereal, sandwich bread, diet soda, and a frozen dinner. He nodded slowly. That question, and her answer, changed the next 5 years of her life. Margaret is not rare. 1 in 9 Americans over 45 already shows signs of cognitive decline. Most of them have no idea. And the window to act is closing faster than any of us want to believe. This is Longevity Lab. We dig into the science of living longer and living sharper. No fluff, no clickbait, just the research, delivered straight. 1. Your brain is shrinking, and food is the fastest variable you control. A radiologist in Chicago, named Dr. David Bennett, spent 20 years scanning the brains of aging adults. What he found was disturbing. Starting around age 45, the human brain loses volume every single year. The hippocampus, your memory center, shrinks first. But here's what stunned his team. The rate of shrinkage was not the same across all patients. Some brains aged twice as fast as others. The difference wasn't genetics. It wasn't exercise alone. It was diet. Specifically, it was the presence or absence of one category of food, 4.7%. That's how much faster the brains of low-nutrient dieters shrank annually compared to high-nutrient dieters. This came from Rush University's landmark Memory and Aging Project, running since 1997. Over 900 participants, decades of dietary tracking. The researchers identified a specific eating pattern. They called it the mind diet, and the results were striking enough to change how neurologists counsel patients. What you eat today is literally reshaping your brain's architecture. That's not a metaphor. That's MRI data. 2. The #1 food category, leafy greens, and why one serving changes everything. Margaret's neurologist didn't hand her a supplement list. He told her to eat more dark leafy greens every single day. She thought it sounded too simple. It isn't. Leafy greens is kale, spinach, collards, arugula, are loaded with vitamin K, lutein, folate, and beta-carotene. These compounds do something remarkable inside your skull. They slow the biological aging of neurons. They reduce inflammatory markers in brain tissue. They protect the myelin sheath, the insulation around your nerve fibers, from breaking down. 1 serving per day. That single habit was linked to a brain 11 years younger in cognitive testing. 11 years, not 11%. 11 full years of cognitive age difference. That data came directly from the Rush University Mind Study. Participants who ate just 1 serving of leafy greens daily performed on memory tests as if their brains were a decade younger than those who rarely ate them. Margaret started with a handful of spinach in her morning eggs. That was it. She didn't overhaul her life. She added one thing. And within 6 months, her word retrieval tests had measurably improved. 3. Flavonoids, the compound that literally grows new brain cells. In 2020, A neuroscientist at Harvard named Dr. Walter Willett published findings that sent ripples through the scientific community. His team had been tracking 49,000 adults for over 2 decades. They were looking at flavonoid intake, the pigment compounds found in berries, dark chocolate, citrus, and certain teas. What they found was not subtle. Adults who consumed the highest levels of flavonoids had a 34% lower risk of cognitive decline, not slowed decline, lower risk of it happening at all. Here's the mechanism. Flavonoids cross the blood-brain barrier. They trigger production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. BDNF is essentially fertilizer for neurons. It stimulates neurogenesis, the growth of new brain cells. In the hippocampus, 34%, lower risk, over 24 years of data. Blueberries are the most studied source. Half a cup. That's the threshold where the studies show meaningful effect. Frozen blueberries work just as well as fresh. The flavonoids survive the freeze. Your action right now. Add blueberries to whatever you eat for breakfast tomorrow. Don't wait for the perfect routine. Just add them. 4. Omega-3s and the inflammation that quietly kills your memory. There's a process happening in millions of brains right now. Most people can't feel it. Neuroinflammation, chronic low-grade inflammation in brain tissue. It corrodes synaptic connections the way rust corrodes metal. Slowly, then suddenly. Here is what that looks like. Neurons stop talking to each other cleanly. Memory retrieval gets choppy. Focus dissolves. Then comes the fog that doesn't lift. Neuroinflammation is not caused by one bad meal. It builds over years of a diet low in omega-3 fatty acids and high in processed seed oils. Omega-3s, especially DHA, are the primary structural fat in your brain. Without them, cell membranes become rigid. Signals misfire. 60% of your brain is fat. DHA makes up most of it. A 2021 study from UCLA found that adults with the lowest DHA levels had significantly more brain atrophy and performed worse on memory tasks than those with adequate levels. The fix is not complicated. Fatty fish, salmon, sardines, mackerel, 2 servings per week. Walnuts daily, flaxseed in your food. These are not exotic ingredients. They are the cheapest insurance policy your brain has access to. 5. The ultra-processed food trap and why it accelerates brain aging. Here is the other side of this equation, and it's where most people over 45 are losing ground without realizing it. Ultra-processed foods, packaged snacks, white bread, fast food, sweetened beverages, do something specific to your brain. They spike blood glucose rapidly. Repeated spikes damage the small blood vessels that feed your hippocampus. Over time, the blood supply to your memory center literally degrades. Researchers have a name for this now. Type 3 diabetes. Some neurologists call Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes because of how clearly insulin resistance in the brain correlates with cognitive decline. This is not fringe science. 45% higher risk of dementia. That's what ultra-processed diets showed in a 2022 JAMA Neurology analysis of 72,000 adults. 45%. That number should stop you cold. The average American gets 60% of their daily calories from ultra-processed foods. If that number describes you even partially, the shift is not about perfection. It's about displacement. Every leafy green you add pushes something harmful out. You don't have to eliminate. You have to replace. Start with one meal. Make it real food tomorrow morning. 6. The Mind Diet Score. And what Margaret's brain looked like 2 years later. The Mind Diet isn't a fad. It's a scoring system built from 2 decades of neuroscience. 10 brain-protective food groups. 5 food groups to limit. Researchers at Rush University scored participants each year and tracked their cognitive trajectory. The results were not linear, they were dramatic. High mind scores correlated with brains that functioned significantly better under aging pressure. Specifically, participants with consistently high scores showed 53% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's. Even moderate adherence, not perfect, just consistent, cut risk by 35%. 53% from food choices alone. The 10 foods to build around: leafy greens, all other vegetables, berries, nuts, olive oil, whole grains, fish, beans, poultry, wine, in moderation. The 5 to limit: red meat, butter, cheese, pastries, fried food. Margaret adopted this framework. Not perfectly. She still had a cheeseburger on her birthday. But 2 years after that conversation in her neurologist's office, she sat for a follow-up cognitive battery. Her scores had not dropped further. They had improved. Her neurologist told her he didn't see that outcome often. She told him she'd started eating spinach every morning. He wasn't surprised. 7. Sleep clears the brain, and the right foods make sleep cleaner. This last point ties everything together, and most people miss it completely. Your brain has a waste clearance system. It's called the glymphatic system. It activates almost exclusively during deep sleep. It flushes amyloid plaques, the proteins linked to Alzheimer's, out of brain tissue every night, like a dishwasher running between midnight and 4 a.m. But here's the catch. Poor nutrition disrupts the quality of deep sleep. Specifically, diets high in sugar and saturated fat reduce slow-wave sleep, the stage where glymphatic clearance is most active. Your brain stops cleaning itself properly. The plaques accumulate. This is what that looks like on a cellular level. One poor night of sleep increases amyloid buildup by 25%. Even one night. Magnesium, found abundantly in leafy greens and nuts, is directly linked to deeper, more restorative sleep cycles. Tryptophan from turkey, eggs, and seeds supports melatonin production. These are not supplements. They are foods. They are available at any grocery store. The feedback loop here is important. Better food drives better sleep. Better sleep clears more amyloid. Less amyloid means slower cognitive decline. The system rewards itself, but only if you start it. Here's your 3-step plan. Start tomorrow morning. 0 cost, 0 equipment. Step 1. Add 1 handful of dark leafy greens to your breakfast. Spinach in eggs, arugula on toast, kale blended into whatever you're already eating. 1 serving. That's the threshold the research demands. Step 2. Swap your mid-morning snack to a small handful of walnuts and half a cup of blueberries. Frozen is fine. This hits your omega-3s, your flavonoids, and your BDNF in a single move. Step 3. Before bed tonight, look at tomorrow's dinner. Plan 1 meal with fatty fish or a bean-based dish. You don't need to shop differently right now. Just look. Awareness precedes action. These 3 steps represent the highest leverage dietary shifts in the entire neuroscience literature on cognitive aging. Margaret did all 3. Her brain rewarded her. Next week on Longevity Lab, scientists discovered a 12-minute daily habit that adds up to 9 years of brain age. It costs nothing, and almost nobody over 50 is doing it. Subscribe so you don't miss it.